At the dawn of the 20th century, the United States was not yet the master of the global order. It was a nation vast in land, rich in resources, and ambitious in spirit, but it was not the axis upon which the world turned. Across the Atlantic stood ancient empires with centuries of dominance behind them. Britain ruled the seas with an unmatched navy. France controlled territories across Africa and Asia. Germany was rising with industrial precision and military discipline. And Russia, stretched across Eurasia with seemingly endless manpower. Compared to these titans, America was still viewed as a young republic, powerful within its borders, but peripheral to the balance of global power. Yet beneath that perception, something extraordinary was building, an economic engine of such magnitude that within 50 years, it would reshape the hierarchy of nations and redefine what global dominance truly meant. The foundation of American ascent was not laid in palaces or royal courts, but in factories, rail yards, oil fields, and steel mills. By the early 1900s, the United States had surpassed European powers in industrial output. Its natural resources were immense, its population growing rapidly, and its internal market enormous. Railroads connected the Atlantic to the Pacific, enabling goods to move faster and cheaper than anywhere else on Earth. Industrialists like Carnegie, Rockefeller, and Morgan built systems of production that dwarfed European competitors. And then came the innovation that multiplied efficiency beyond imagination: the assembly line. When Henry Ford perfected mass automobile production, he did more than make cars affordable. He demonstrated that America could outproduce any rival. Productivity became the nation's weapon long before its military dominance was established, while Europe's powers balanced alliances and prepared for inevitable confrontation. America was building. Steel production soared, oil fueled expansion, electricity illuminated cities that grew vertically into the sky. New York became a financial nerve center. Chicago and Detroit symbolized industrial might. Immigrants arrived by the millions, bringing labor, ambition, and belief in opportunity. The United States was becoming a self-sustaining continental giant, and when World War I erupted in 1914, the contrast between the old world and the new could not have been sharper. Europe descended into trench warfare, artillery barges, poison gas, and mechanized carnage. Entire generations were swallowed by mud and fire. America, at first, remained physically untouched. Neutrality, however, did not mean passivity. American banks extended massive loans to Allied powers. American farms shipped grain across the Atlantic. American factories increased production of munitions and supplies. Slowly but decisively, the United States became the industrial backbone of the Allied war effort. And when German submarine warfare threatened American shipping and diplomatic tensions escalated beyond repair, the United States entered the war in 1917 not as a weakened participant, but as a decisive reinforcement. Fresh American troops, equipped and supplied by the most powerful industrial base in the world, tipped the balance. Within 18 months, the stalemate broke. Germany collapsed, and the war ended. The message was unmistakable. When America committed its resources, outcomes changed. Yet after victory, the United States chose restraint. Rather than seize colonies or expand territory overseas, it withdrew from the political entanglements of Europe. The Senate rejected membership in the League of Nations. America turned inward, focusing on economic expansion. And during the 1920s, the nation surged forward with breathtaking speed. Skyscrapers pierced the skyline. Wall Street surged with speculation. Consumer culture expanded. Jazz and cinema spread American influence globally. Even without formal empire, the United States was exporting something equally powerful: culture, capital, and aspiration. American brands reached foreign markets. American films defined modern entertainment. The dollar gained credibility. Economic gravity replaced territorial conquest as the new form of influence. Then came collapse. The Great Depression shattered confidence, erased fortunes, and left millions unemployed. Banks failed, farms foreclosed, factories closed. For a moment, it appeared that the American rise might stall permanently. But the response to crisis revealed another dimension of national strength: adaptability. Sweeping reforms stabilized banks, restored confidence, and reorganized financial systems. Vast infrastructure programs reshaped the landscape with dams, highways, and power grids. Industrial capacity, though wounded, remained intact. The Depression was devastating, but it did not destroy the foundations of American productivity. Instead, it forced modernization, regulation, and coordination that would prove crucial in the years ahead. As the 1930s closed, storm clouds gathered again over Europe and Asia. Authoritarian regimes expanded aggressively. Germany rearmed, Japan invaded China, and global conflict seemed inevitable. When World War II erupted in 1939, America once again remained officially outside the fighting. Yet even in neutrality, the industrial engine accelerated. The United States began supplying allied nations through programs designed to sustain resistance against aggression. Factories ramped up production. Shipyards expanded. Aircraft manufacturing multiplied. And when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor in December 1941, the transition from preparation to full mobilization was instantaneous. The transformation that followed was unlike anything in history. Automobile factories converted to tank production. Civilian aircraft plants shifted to bombers. Typewriter manufacturers produced rifles. Within months, American industry was producing ships faster than they could be sunk, planes faster than they could be shot down, vehicles faster than they could be destroyed. Women entered factories in unprecedented numbers. Scientific research accelerated. Logistics networks expanded across oceans. The United States did not merely participate in the war. It became the arsenal that sustained the entire Allied effort. By 1944, American output exceeded that of Germany, Japan, and Italy combined. Production was no longer a national strength. It was overwhelming dominance. American forces fought across two vast theaters. In Europe, they landed in North Africa, pushed through Italy, and stormed the beaches of Normandy in one of the most daring amphibious invasions ever attempted. In the Pacific, they advanced island by island across thousands of miles of hostile ocean. Aircraft carriers projected power across unimaginable distances. Supply chains stretched from California to the Philippines. Coordination between industry and military became seamless. And while cities in Europe and Asia were reduced to rubble, the American mainland remained secure. No foreign army set foot on its soil. No factories were bombed into ruin. When victory finally arrived in 1945, the strategic landscape had transformed completely. Europe lay devastated. Germany defeated. Japan surrendered. Britain financially exhausted. France weakened. The Soviet Union victorious but scarred by catastrophic loss. And standing apart from the destruction was the United States. Its factories intact, its infrastructure expanded, its workforce skilled, its military experienced, its navy dominant. At that moment, America accounted for roughly half of the world's industrial output. Half, the economic center of gravity had shifted permanently across the Atlantic. Yet what defined the American rise was not conquest but construction. Instead of annexing defeated nations, the United States invested in rebuilding them. Through the Marshall Plan, billions of dollars flowed into Europe to restore stability and prevent economic collapse. Germany and Japan were reconstructed as democratic allies. Trade systems were reorganized around the dollar. The Bretton Woods system established financial structures that anchored global markets to American currency. Institutions such as the United Nations and the International Monetary Fund emerged with strong American leadership. And gradually, an interconnected global order took shape. One in which American economic strength, military security, and diplomatic influence were central pillars. The Cold War soon followed. Ideological rivalry with the Soviet Union defined the next era. But even here, American strength extended beyond military might. Technological innovation accelerated. Nuclear deterrence reshaped strategic calculations. Aerospace research led to rockets capable of reaching space. Universities expanded scientific programs. Computing began its early evolution. And American culture, music, consumer goods, cinema, and eventually television, flowed across borders. Influence operated on multiple levels simultaneously. Alliances formed across Western Europe and Asia. NATO institutionalized collective defense, military bases, secured strategic regions, and the United States became not only a superpower, but the organizing force of a new global equilibrium. By 1950, the transformation was undeniable. In just 50 years, America had moved from rising industrial nation to undisputed global superpower. It possessed the strongest navy, one of the largest air forces, unmatched industrial productivity, the world's reserve currency, global alliances spanning continents, and technological leadership driving innovation. It had intervened decisively in 2 world wars and emerged stronger each time. It had avoided the physical devastation that crippled rivals, and it had replaced old imperial systems with networks of partnership anchored in economic and military cooperation. History rarely accelerates so dramatically. Empires typically rise over centuries. Yet between 1900 and 1950, the United States compressed what might have been a gradual ascent into a single, explosive era of transformation. Geography provided security, industry provided leverage, leadership provided direction, and crisis provided opportunity. When the dust of global war settled, the question was no longer whether America was powerful. It was whether any nation could rival its influence. And for the remainder of the 20th century, the answer would define global politics, economics, and security. The rise of the United States was not inevitable. It required adaptation during depression, mobilization during war, strategic restraint. After victory and vision in building institutions, it was powered by workers, soldiers, engineers, entrepreneurs, and policymakers. It was forged in steel mills, laboratories, shipyards, and battlefields. And by mid-century, the world order itself bore the imprint of American design. Within 50 years, the balance of power had shifted irrevocably. A young republic had become the central force of modern history. And from that moment forward, the trajectory of the world would be inseparable from the trajectory of the United States of America.